Greetings, humans! We're going to be talking about the least common multiple today. But first, why don't we start by talking about a multiple? A multiple of a whole number is the product of that number and any other non-zero whole number. Whoa, what does that mean? That means that 2's multiples are simply 2, 4, 6, 8. Just like the number 7 has multiples 7, 14, 21, and so on. A common multiple is a multiple that is shared by 2 or more numbers. So let's look at the multiples of 8. We've got 8, then 16, if you multiply it by 3, 24, 32, 40, and 48, and so on. 12 has multiples 12, 24, 36, 48, and so on. If you're looking for common multiples, you can see that 24 is shared by both. Same with 48. These are common multiples. So of course, I think if we're going to define the least common multiple, you can see that with 8 and 12, the least common multiple is 24. And here's my shorthand definition for least common multiple. The least common multiple between 2 or more numbers is the least common multiple between 2 or more numbers. How do we find the least common multiple, you may ask? Well, method 1, list the factors, kind of like we did before with 8 and 12. You just simply list 8, 16, 24, and so on. Same with 12, list 12, 24, and so on until you can find something that is common. The first one that you find is the least common multiple between the two numbers. Sometimes it's not that easy, and sometimes it's obnoxious to write that many multiples if it doesn't readily come to you. So method 2 gives us a solid approach that will work no matter what the number is and no matter if it has variables or not. So let's look for an example with just using 2 basic numbers. So let's look to find the least common multiple between 6 and 15. Method 2 says use the prime factorization. So let's do that. Let's write the prime factorization for each 6 and 15. Maybe you'd have to take these numbers off to the side to see that the prime factorization is 2 times 3, and then 15 is 3 times 5. What you do now is a little bit different than what we've been doing. You look for something in common. So the prime factorization of each of these numbers, notice that there's a 3 in common with each. So write it once down here. Then you will list the other factors, prime factors, from the factorization of each number. Notice we put the 3 here because it's shared in each, so we write it just once. We represent this 2, and we represent the 5. We represent every single factor of the prime factorization, except for the ones that occur in each. You represent that just once. Okay? And when you multiply these together, guess what? 6 times 5 is 30, is the least common multiple between 6 and 15. Interesting. If you wanted to check it, you could. List all the factors, multiples of 6. As you're doing that, you notice that 30 is one of the multiples. 15, same thing, 15 and 30. So here, you can see the least common multiple is 30, or you could do it this way using prime factorization. Interesting. Can you find the least common multiple between 16 and 24? I bet you can. Simply write the prime factorization of 16, same with 24, and we'll see where to go from there. Prime factorization of 16, 2 with 8, 2 with 4. Okay, so 16's factorization is just a bunch of 2's, 2 times 2 times 2. 24, prime factorization, 2 with 12, 2 with 6, and then 2 with 3. Cool. So we've got 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Awesome. Now, to develop the LCM, all you've got to do is look for something in common and write it down below. Look for something in common and write it down below. What? Look for something in common and write it down below. Now, notice that we have a factor of 2 that's left over and a factor of 3. Write both of those down below. So your least common multiple is 2 times 2, which is 4. 2 times 2 is 4, and you still have this 3. So all I'm doing is multiplying these numbers together. I've got 2 times 2 for 4, 2 times 2 for another 4, and then 3. 4 times 4 for 16, and you still have this 3. So 16 times 3 is 48 is your least common multiple. Some of you might be thinking this is the long way to do it. And yeah, it kind of is, but it's going to help you when you attack numbers that have variables. Let's see. This game is so fun. Let's try to find the LCM, or least common multiple, between 9xy squared and 15x squared y. Goodness gracious, it seems intimidating, but it's not, because all we need to do is list the prime factorization of each. Prime factorization for 9 is 3 times 3. And remember, with variables, you just represent all the variables as multiplication. So here we have it. Then let's look at 15x squared y. Prime factorization is nothing but 3 times 5. And then you have x times y. Cool beans. Now you're searching for a number to develop the LCM here. Searching for a number they have in common. Here's one, so write it down below. Cool beans. Do they have anything else in common? Yeah, they do. They have an x in common, so write it down below. We'll also multiply this y that they have in common, and we'll write it down below. Everything else is not represented in both factorizations. So we do have this 3 that needs to be represented. We do have this 5 that needs to be represented down below, this x, and this y. Sweet. Now it just becomes a multiplication problem. We can use the commutative property to make this look a little bit better on our eyes. Let's do that. 3 times 3 times 5, and you also have 2 x's and I think 2 y's as well. The least common multiple is 3 times 3 for 9 times the 5, which is 45 for our numbers. 2 x's being multiplied is x squared, and 2 y's being multiplied is y squared. Your least common multiple, 45 x squared y squared. Pretty crazy. And take comfort in the fact that the process is the same every time. Sweet, this is fun. See if you can do this one and find the least common multiple without being prompted by me. Go ahead and pause the video and try this one on your own. I'll have the answer for you in a couple of seconds. Okay, I hope you paused the video because here's the beginning of our answer. We've got the prime factorization for each number written. And now all you have to do is find out what numbers they have in common and represent them once in your least common multiple. So we found a 2 and another 2. What else do they have in common? You can see this 3 and a D. And, oh, they have an E in common as well. The other factors must be represented. So let's take the 2. Let's take the 3, whatever's left over. Let's take this E and these 2 D's. Perfect. Our least common multiple is this big old mess. However, let's make it more concise. 2 times 2 is 4, times this 3 would be 12, with those 3 numbers right there, 12. And you're still multiplying 2 times 3 for 6. So you have this 12 times this 6, I think it's 72 today. How about the variables? 1, 2, 3 d's, d to the third, and e to the second. Ooh, this is fun. I feel cool. Oh, I'm so cool. Hope this helped. Practice on your own.